Monday, April 8th, NBA MLB Betting Picks edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Head to cut.com, that's KUTT.com. Use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, MLB, NHL, college basketball, and more. Sign up today using our promo code MLBSGPN to get a 100 deposit bonus match. And we're also brought to you by AVO. AVO is the premier arbitrage sports betting tool. Use their tool to bet both sides and lock in a profit. Access their platform for free at arbsbsodds.com. That's arbsversusodds.com. Plus, in honor of Masters Week, the Golf Gambling Podcast guys are giving away a tailor-made Spider X putter for absolutely free. Enter at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/masters. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Sunday early evening here to get into the Monday betting card for baseball. And joining me here to help me break it all down on the diamond, you guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the NBA Gambling Podcast, WNBA, NFL, and of course here on the MLB Gambling Podcast, Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Enjoying the baseball season so far. My Yankees keep winning, so can't complain. Nice win there, as they were able to beat the Blue Jays again. They won the series, so good for them. Yeah, question. Who do you think looks more helpless? Johan Rojas facing Major League pitching, or Iowa trying to grab a rebound against South Carolina?
The fact that Iowa did not score for the final 4 minutes, was it, and change maybe? I'm going to go with Iowa on that one.
Okay, just saying.
Yeah, give or take.
You can tell going in they couldn't rebound the ball. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, 37-0 is very, very, very impressive for South Carolina and Dawn Stanley. So congrats to the South Carolina Gamecocks for winning with their third title in school history, if I'm not mistaken.
So.
Yeah, I was watching some of the game. I caught the tail end of it. But yeah, it turned out to be a pretty good game there. Pretty standard weekend, I guess we can say, around the MLB. I'm not sure if you heard the crack of the bat from your place where Stanton hit that grand slam, Scott, but your Yankees are rolling right now, my man.
Yeah, they look good. Toronto's been up and down like they have been for, 3-4 years at this point. But the Yankees bats got going. Soto didn't really do anything the entire series, and they've been winning. So Soto was great the first series and change. He did really not much against Arizona. Didn't do much against Toronto, and they keep winning. So, yeah, overall, can't complain. Kind of different contributors every night, and it's been working out well. So, no complaints.
Yeah, now they have a pretty, I don't want to say easy opponent because we've seen crazier things happen in the MLB, but I believe the Marlins got their first victory today against the Cardinals, and they will be heading to the Bronx to take on the Yankees. Who would have thought here, Scott, that we'd be sitting here and the A's and the Astros through about 9 to 10 games here would have the same amount of wins? I did not have that on my bingo card. I don't know about you.
I did not either, but here we are.
Yeah, so what, 14 games on the schedule, 14 games on the schedule, have listed pitchers for every single game except for the first one that is going to be starting on Monday, the early start between the White Sox and the Guardians. No pitcher yet for the White Sox, but speaking of the Guardians, and before we get into the games, some bad news for you if you're a Guardians fan or a Shane Bieber Cy Young ticket holder like myself. He went some underwent some more testing on his elbow and will be done for the rest of this year and probably the majority of next season, opting for TJ surgery. Unfortunately for him, got off to a really great start to the season for the Guardians, but just unfortunate news and some good news on the other side for a pitcher that was dealing with some elbow injuries or issue. Your guy, Garrett Cole, is going to start playing catch next week, is what I've saw a note come across from Aaron Boone. So looking promising, at least for the Yankees, to get Garrett Cole back here sooner rather than later. And then Spencer Strider, another pitcher that is dealing with some elbow issues as well. We'll see what comes about for Spencer Strider. I haven't seen anything official yet. I don't know if you've seen anything, Scott, but pitcher injuries are just starting to stack up a little bit here very, very, very early in the season.
Yeah, it seems like they're blaming it on the pitch clock, potentially the reduced pitch clock, or if you want to use Glasnow's answer from about a year or two ago, he said it was the banning of the sticky stuff and how it involved their actual grip on the baseball, which can impact different muscle groups in the forearm and in the shoulder, etc. Couple of potential reasons for it, maybe all the above, but they got to fix something. I get the argument of trying to make the game faster, trying to kill, I'd say, downtime or just wasted time in the sport itself. But at some point, health matters more. And if you see a full-on epidemic, which is what we're getting right now with injuries with pitchers, you're going to have to fix it somehow. Because yes, people have enjoyed baseball with the pitch clock. They have enjoyed seeing baseball at a faster pace. But they also want to see the best pitchers pitch and the best players play. So you got to find the middle ground there. I feel like even if we want a faster game, would you really notice a big difference, or would you really care if the pitch clock was 45 seconds instead of 20 seconds? Probably not. I think most people just hated having to wait minutes in between pitches like it used to be. And as a Yankees fan, I can tell you every Yankees-Red Sox game used to take 4.5 hours. Didn't matter what the score was. It was going to take 4.5 hours. You were going to get 10 mound visits per team, and it was going to take a full afternoon to finish a game. It's not the case anymore, so they've already fixed that issue to some degree. 40 seconds, 30 seconds, I don't really care. Making the time shorter in between pitches, I really don't think makes a big difference for viewer attention span. Maybe that's just me. Maybe you'll disagree, but I don't think it really matters that much. Bump the time up, make it 30 or 40 seconds, and that way you'll limit injuries, potentially.
Yeah, and I think, though, this season they came down on the pitch clock, that they have even less time to get the next pitch off, and I think that's shrinking even more going into the postseason. So I think for the hardcore, like you mentioned, baseball junkie, I don't think it really matters. But I think a lot of these owners and the league offices care about the bottom line, that these fans want to get out to their respective stadiums and don't want to sit there for 4.5 hours, watching a game. But at the same time, like you mentioned, you want your healthiest guys, your star pitchers out there pitching, because when it comes to the postseason, you want to see a Spencer Strider going up against, just throwing names out there, as a Zach Gallen. You know what I mean? So, and you want to see a Garrett Cole going up against a Corbin Burns in a potential, matchup in the postseason. And again, with all the injuries that are occurring right now to these pitchers, it's kind of unfortunate to see. And again, it really, like I mentioned, also affects some of the Cy Young Award market, that you kind of almost want to wait till after the after the All-Star break and see who's actually healthy before you're actually picking up some of these tickets. Because I saw somebody tweet, or it was actually on Instagram, that they parlayed, I think it was Spencer Strider and Shane Bieber to be Cy Young Award winners, and unfortunately, they came down with the elbow injuries and then opting for TJ surgery. So we'll see what happens, going forward, if they are going to change that rule or not.
Yeah, but just wondering. Last year, I believe, was officially the fastest time per game. I think it was like the shortest time, and they tried to go even further.
Yeah.
Does it really matter? I
don't
feel
think
like
so.
once you set the record for the shortest average game time span, at that point, I don't think other fans are going to look over and go, we need to go faster. No, you were already the shortest of all time. I think you probably could have just stayed with whatever the pitch clock was last year, and nobody would have cared. I know I mentioned a separate reason for the injury years ago. I did a separate mid-afternoon podcast with a friend of mine, and we talked about it. And I said back then what I believe now: there's only so much that human bodies can actually handle.
Sure.
At some point, if you're going to keep exercising all the time, and you know that the workouts these athletes go through and the practice pitches they throw are insane, just the amount of actual strain they put on their body, are we sure humans were meant to throw the ball 100 plus miles per hour for about 8 innings for the span of like once every 6 days for months on end?
Yeah.
Probably not. I'm not sure that this might just be what the body's limitations are. At the end of the day, you're trying to reach a certain point in just sports in general where I'd say you're trying to test the limits of what athletes can do, and you want to be a little bit dangerous and test the boundaries. This might be the boundary. Like,
Yeah.
you might just not be able to keep throwing the ball 100 miles an hour or just using a ton of velocities, or if you want to throw in the overall rotations on a baseball,
Sure.
there's just so much strain on your arm. I just think that human bodies might not be able to handle it. That could be a separate reason for it.
Yeah, especially like if like a guy like Garrett Cole, who has been relatively healthy throughout his career. I mean, I think you're right that eventually it's going to catch up to you. And I think that for Garrett Cole right now, it doesn't seem like it's something serious. But again, like the guys that we did discuss, the the Striders of the world, the Biebers of the world, the Tyler Glasnows of the world. I mean, I think that eventually, even going before the professional level, like, I mean, you were throwing hard as you can when you were in high school or in college. I know it's different when you're at the professional level as well, but it's just unfortunate to see. Again, we'll see if the front office is the Players Association kind of meet and see what if they can do to change that, if it is actually leading to injuries
Yeah,
or not.
I mean, it's about velocity is at an all-time high, spin rates at an all-time high. It's just an
Yeah,
insane amount of pressure on your arm. And I feel like
100%.
we don't exactly know what humans can fully handle as like a maximum mark. We're
Hmm.
probably close to it because people keep getting injured. So I think the pitch
Yeah,
clock does matter. Maybe the spider attack does matter because you have to grip the ball and put more strength on it per pitch as opposed to the ball just sticking to your finger, basically. But I
yeah,
do think part of it is just anatomy and what human bodies are like meant to actually handle. And we might be passing a certain threshold where it doesn't matter how much time's in between pitches. You keep putting that much pressure and strain on your arm, you're going to have problems.
yeah. I agree 110% with that. All right, Scott, before we get into the games here for the Monday card, in honor of Masters Week, the Golf Gambling Podcast guys are giving away a tailor-made Spider X putter. Enter for free at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/masters. And attention, if you are in the San Diego area, Sean and Ryan are going to a special Circus Sports watch party starting Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. at Swing Social. Free drinks for anyone wearing Cubs or Padres gear. Grab a cocktail and say what's up to the guys over at Swing Social, 4 p.m. Tuesday afternoon if you are in the San Diego area. All right, Scott, let's get into the games here for the Monday card. Like I mentioned, for the White Sox and the Guardians game, we do not have a pitcher yet for the Chicago White Sox and no lines as of yet either. So we'll get over to the first game, I should say, on the card. That's going to be the Miami Marlins. They are in the Bronx to take on the New York Yankees. Right now, I'm seeing a starting pitcher for the Marlins, Jesus Luzardo, against Nestor Cortez. Battle of the lefties here. Cortez a minus 162 home favorite, plus 136 on the money line for the Marlins. Total is set at 8.5 with juice towards the under at minus 118. Run line minus 1.5 plus 124 for the Yankees, plus 1.5 minus 148 for the Miami Marlins. Marlins currently in a rain delay, but they do have a 10-1 lead over the Cardinals, looking to get their first win of the regular season. Would take an epic collapse for that. Oh, sorry, it's 10-3 now in the bottom of the ninth. Look like they're well on their way to getting that first victory, but they go up against one of the hotter teams in the MLB right now with your New York Yankees here. Scott, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think the Marlins are fine today. They don't have the Rockies bullpens. So they might be able to actually hold on to this one, but I feel like the only way to go about this is to take the Marlins early in this game. Marlins first five, maybe even Marlins first 5 team total over. Cortez is really bad in the start of games. He's gotten killed in the first inning this season, so I do think Miami can jump on a pretty, I'd say, vulnerable pitcher early in this game. We saw that today. Chisholm, I think, had a 3-run homer in the first inning, if I'm not mistaken. But I like the Marlins early in this game. The Yankees are the better team, so obviously they're going to be priced accordingly. But I do have to at least point out that the Marlins, I think, can grab a lead early in this game because Cortez has really not been good, and he's had to settle into some games. So I don't mind the Marlins early. Give me Marlins first 5 team total over.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the first 5 over in general here. I think both pitchers are susceptible to giving up some runs here. Like you mentioned, Cortez, 10 innings pitched thus far this season, hasn't made it past the 5th inning in any one of his starts, has allowed a total of 7 earned runs, 7 strikeouts to 4 total walks. He's allowed 2 walks in each of his first 2 starts. And Jesus Luzardo, right? He got off to a shaky start against the Angels. The offense just didn't help him either, but he did allow 5 he's allowed 5 total earned runs in the same span in 10 and third inning for the Miami Marlins. So I say all that. I think that, I agree with you about the Marlins team total over. I think the Yankees can get some off of Luzardo here as well. So I think a first 5 over is in order here as well. Full game, I'll lean to the Yankees full game, but at a minus 162 price. I'm not sure I want to get that, especially with Nestor Cortez on the mound here for the New York Yankees. You got anything else for this game?
No, once again, it's tough to go against the Yankees just based on how they've been playing and how Miami's been playing. So a lot of people are going to take the Yankees. If you want to take it now, you can probably find a pretty cheap price because the Yankee tax is going to creep in at some point, probably overnight. So minus 150 is actually a decent line if you want to jump in now because it's probably going to close. What do you think, like 175?
Yeah,
give or take.
Yeah.
So if you want the Yankees, take it early. If you want the Marlins, you can wait. But I'd rather just go with the team total over in the first 5. Cortez has really not looked sharp, especially early. I think Miami can do pretty well early on.
All right, next game on the schedule. Let's get over to the Detroit Tigers. They are traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. Currently, as it stands, I'm seeing Reese Olson is going to get the start here for the Tigers. Mitch Keller on the mound here for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pirates a minus 125 home favorite, plus 105 on the money line for the Detroit Tigers. Total is set at 8.5. Run line minus 1.5, plus 154 in favor of the Pirates, and plus 1.5, minus 185 in favor of the Detroit Tigers. Tigers coming off in a series loss against the Oakland A's. They dropped their last 2 games of the series to the A's. They're still 6-3. Overall, but now they'll be traveling to the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the hotter teams in the MLB. They beat the Orioles, I should say, and come from behind fashion today. They are sitting at a record of 8-2. But what are your thoughts on this game here, Scott, between the Pirates hosting the Tigers?
Yeah, both teams have actually been good so far this season. Pittsburgh's 8-2. Detroit is 6-3, which is kind of surprising to some. As for the actual pitching matchup, though, I am not a Keller guy. It's well documented. Am I a Reese Olson guy? Not really either. So I guess it's kind of a similar approach. I don't mind potentially taking the first 5 team total over with Detroit. I know I faded Keller in his first start against the Nationals. First 5 team total over. That got there. So I'm going to keep riding it. I think Keller is a bit overrated based on just overall perception, and I've never really been a big fan. So I don't mind Detroit getting plus money. Basically a coin flip game, but I don't mind the first 5 team total over once again. I think Detroit can actually get to Keller, and offensively so far this season, they've been pretty good. So I don't mind taking the Tigers' first 5 team total over in this game.
Yeah, Keller was a pitcher last season that was brilliant at home. 7-3 with a 2.90 ERA. Just had a lot of trouble on the road last season, especially post All-Star break. On the road last year, 6-6 with a 5.35 ERA. Take a look at his first 2 starts this season. Both have been on the road. Both he got in trouble against both the Nationals and the Marlins. He allowed 4 earned runs each of those 2 games. So I want to see what I can get out of Mitch Keller here first before I'm able to trust him, especially being at home. But I think that is a spot here for the Tigers to bounce back, whether if you want to take them in the first 5 innings or just take their team total full game over. Their offense has struggled a little bit this season, where they have only scored, 29 runs. They have a +1 run differential, so it's really been their pitching that's been carrying them to their victories here. But that offense really needs to get going if they're going to have any success overall in this season here. So, and maybe Mitch Keller is that guy that kind of cures those offensive woes here. But yeah, I'll lean here the Tigers' first 5 innings on the money line. Full game. I mean, Pirates are a feisty bunch, right? We saw that over the weekend that they were able to get out to leads, and they also came back, like I mentioned, on Sunday afternoon against Orioles, which led to a series of errors that kind of gave the Pirates a game there. So I'll lean full game Pirates. Maybe they can come from behind against this Detroit Tigers bullpen, but I will officially be playing that first 5 inning money line here for the Detroit Tigers. Next game on the schedule, let's get over to an NL Central battle between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds. Aaron Ashby gets a start here for the Milwaukee Brewers, and Graham Ashcraft gets a start here for the Cincinnati Reds. Reds are a -115 home favorite, -105 on the money line for the Brewers. 9.5 is the total. Run line +1.5, -180 for the Reds, and -1.5, +150 for the Brewers. Coin flip game here, Scott. Ashby versus Ashcraft. What are you thinking?
Well, Ashby hasn't pitched yet this season, so it's kind of tough to tell what we're going to expect from him.
Yeah.
Ashcraft, I think, is fine. We talked about him last year. He was really bad early on. Then he came back from injury. Mel and I actually like him, and he was pretty good in the back half. So I actually like Ashcraft in general. The question is, do I really trust the Reds' bullpen in what I think should be a close game? I do not. I think the Reds' offense is solid, obviously, but it's really a coin flip game. These odds feel right to me. I mean, Ashby has not pitched since 2022, so I guess I'm leaning Reds early. Kind of a general trend here. Reds first 5. If you're not going to pitch since 2022, I need to see something first. So I'm assuming against Cincinnati in one of the more hitter-friendly ballparks in the league, probably not a good environment to get your first start in over a year. 2 years. So I'll fade Ashby for now. I'll take the Reds early.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up the Reds bullpen numbers here. 4.73 ERA. They only recorded 1 save thus far this season, allowed 17 runs.
And Diaz's ERA is really bad. He's supposed to be their closer. His ERA is like north of 7.
Yeah. I mean, they're middle of the pack there, but I think that you're right that you take a look at Graham Ashcraft's first start. It was also in at Citizens Bank Park in Philly, where he got hit a little bit. He did allow 2 home runs, allowed 4 hits. So half of the hits he gave up were home runs, 2 earned runs. He did have 5 strikeouts. So yeah, I think I'm with you that I would look at the Reds full game here, -115. Do I trust the bullpen? Maybe not, but we, like you mentioned, that we want to see something out of Ashby before we can back him. And we don't know how long he's going to be out there, right? It's because he hasn't pitched, like you mentioned, since 2022. Is it going to just be a couple innings? They turn it over to the bullpen, whatever the case might be. But Reds here for me, full game on the money line here. Anything else for this game?
No, not really. I do think if I was going to maybe consider a live bet at some point, I once again would maybe not mind the Brewers team total over once Ashcraft gets pulled. But for the most part, I see a competitive game between two. Do you think these teams are pretty even in general in the NL Central? Because it feels that way.
Yeah, I mean,
the Reds have more offensive talent, but we know the Brewers are a better pitching.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of been impressed with the Brewers' offense this season. I mean, they've scored 41 runs. It's still tied first last in this division, but like you mentioned, it's really been the pitching that's carrying them because they've only allowed a total of 31 runs, which ranks, I want to say, the second best in the entire NL, only trailing the Atlanta Braves, who they've allowed only 30 runs, but Brewers are only giving up 31. So, yeah, I think that, again, it's just the fact that I want to see something out of Ashby here, but I think this Brewers team is off to a really great start. It's going to be really fun watching this NL Central division. I know it's still very, very early on, but every team in this division is at least 500 or better, and that is the only division that has this record right now as far as teams 500 or better. So definitely going to be an interesting division to watch here going forward. All right, Scott, before we get over to the next game on the schedule here, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Peer-to-peer social betting is a new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes, plus tons of fun social features that give it a feel of a betting social network. Cut offers lower VIG and fully customizable odds. Create your own bets. Cut even handles the payment side of things, so you never have to chase anyone down for money. Social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and more. They also have a rewards program to get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. Download Cut today in the App Store or over at cut.com. That's KUTT, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy allows you to play their fantasy games. It's also the easiest place to play fantasy sports. You can play the pick'em game. Pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's games to win big. And you can also win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Sign up today with our promo code MLB SGPN and get your first deposit doubled up to $100 as well as an instant pick'em special. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store, and don't forget to register with our code MLBSGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Must be 18 years or older and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. All right, Scott, let's keep it rolling here, my man. Next game on the schedule, we'll go over to the game between the Seattle Mariners. They are taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Currently, I am seeing the starting pitchers for this game. It's going to be Luis Castillo and Jose Berrios. Blue Jays are a minus 125 home favorite, plus 105 on the money line for the Seattle Mariners. Total is set at 8.5. Run line minus 1.5, plus 160 for the Blue Jays, and plus 1.5, minus 192 for the Seattle Mariners. Scott, pitcher duel here possibly, but Castillo with going up against Jose Berrios. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky because I think Castillo's a better pitcher than Berrios, but Castillo's been terrible this season. So the question is, do I expect Castillo to actually have a good start? Berrios was good so far in his first two outings, as he has a 2.25 ERA. Watching Toronto over the weekend, was I impressed? No, not really. I think that their pitching staff is pretty underwhelming. But Seattle has been not great to start the season. They got routed again today against Milwaukee. I think for this one, it's kind of the same story of being a coin flip. I would lean to the under at 8.5, but I think I'd lean to Seattle. I just think plus 105 is a pretty cheap price for two teams that we think are probably even. If we had to group them together right now, both teams can hit. To go through the actual team stats, not including the game today, Seattle's team batting average is 211. And Toronto's team average is 198. So both teams offensively have been really underwhelming. Both teams have an on-base percentage below 300. So I like the under. Both teams have really just not been good at generating big hits. So I like the under 8.5.
Yeah, the start for Castillo is definitely concerning. And there was a point last season, right, where he got off to a bad start. And I would say the back half of the year, he looked really good. So hopefully he finds his form again. He did have one start last year against the Blue Jays in Toronto. 5 innings, he allowed 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and 2 walks. And like you mentioned, Jose Berrios is off to a good start to the season for the Blue Jays here. 2.25 ERA thus far. He's only allowed 3 earned runs in 12 innings pitched total against the Astros and the Rays. Has allowed 12 hits as well, but I got to see it from Castillo before I can back him. I'm going to take the Blue Jays here on the at the home price of minus 120 now. So until I see some improvement from the Mariners offensively and from Castillo, I got to be on the Blue Jays here minus 120. I believe this is their home opener as well, if I'm not mistaken, for the Toronto Blue Jays here. Let me double check. I feel like they've played all their games on the road. Yeah, so their first 10 games were actually on the road. So this will be their first game at home for the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'll take Jose Berrios at home against the Seattle Mariners. Next game on the schedule, we got the New York Mets. They are headed to Atlanta to take on the Braves. Currently, as it stands, I'm seeing Julio Teheran getting the start here for the Mets. And Uncle Charlie Morton gets the start here for the Atlanta Braves. A couple veteran pitchers going at it here. Braves are a minus 220 home favorite, plus 180 on the money line for the New York Mets. Total set at 9.5 with juice towards the under at minus 115. Run line minus 1.5, minus 115 for the Braves, and plus 1.5, minus 105 for the New York Mets. Mets currently sitting at 3-6. We know the offensive struggles for this team. They've only scored a total of 25 runs. Meanwhile, it seems like the Atlanta Braves have picked up right where they left off last year, where they've already scored 56 runs. And like I mentioned, they've allowed the least amount of runs thus far this season to the opposition at 30. They already have a run differential through 8 games of plus 26. They're on a 3-game win streak here. Scott, What are you thinking about this game between the Braves and the Mets?
Yeah, I want to make a case for the Mets, but I don't think I can do it. Morton's been solid this season, one outing, but Tehran is pitching for the Mets. He has not pitched yet this season. In fact, I
No.
think the Mets signed him a little while ago, so I don't
Mhm.
even know how stretched out his arm actually is for this matchup. He's familiar with the ballpark, if that helps, because he used to pitch for the Braves, but
Yeah.
I have to lean to the Braves on the run line because this team is really, really good, and the Mets are not. Now, the Mets have been better recently. They were 0 to start the season. They won a couple games over the weekend, but the Braves are the Braves. It's just really hard to pick against them when I think Morton's a better pitcher than Tehran, and obviously the Braves have a better lineup. So give me the Braves on the run line. I just think Tehran's going to struggle in the spot.
Yeah. Tehran was with the Brewers last year. He had 2 starts against this Braves team. In Milwaukee, he had a stellar outing, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run. But when he traveled and pitched in Atlanta back in July, 5 innings, he allowed 11 hits, 9 earned runs, 3 home runs that he did give up, and did strike out 4 batters. Meanwhile, Charlie Morton has been pretty good against the Mets. Last season, he actually had 4 starts against them. Was 2-1 with a 3.27 ERA. His 2 home starts were, one he gave up 4 earned runs, one he gave out or threw 7 shutout innings. So yeah, I think I have the better pitcher here in Charlie Morton. I definitely have the better offense by a whole mile in the Atlanta Braves here. So I think I could only look at the run line here for the Atlanta Braves -1.5. I mean, you would think that the Braves, if they scored 5 runs, do we really trust the Mets to score even 3 at this juncture? I'm not sure. So it's just going to be the fact that, we talk about a lot of it in basketball. It's like, can the offense keep up with what the other team is going to do? And this is a case where I don't think that the Mets are going to be able to do that. So I'll take the Braves here, -1.5, -115 on the run line. Next game on the schedule, we got the LA Dodgers. They are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Twins. James Paxton gets to start here for the LA Dodgers, and Bailey Ober gets to start here for the Minnesota Twins. Dodgers are a -142 road favorite, +120 on the money line for the Minnesota Twins. Total is set at 8.5. Run line -1.5, +114 for the Dodgers, and +1.5, -135 for the Minnesota Twins here. Dodgers continue to roll here. They did get beat on, or actually, did they? Yeah, I think they took the loss against the Cubs in the finale there, if I'm not mistaken. They're currently in a rain delay.
They're down 6
6-0.
nothing.
Yeah,
So
6-0, bottom 4 right now. But I mean, with that offense, who knows what could happen? But Dodgers off to a great start, 8-3. They have a +16 run differential. Meanwhile, you take a look at the Minnesota Twins, 3-4. They've lost 2 in a row here. Offense struggling. They've only scored 21 runs thus far in their 7 games. They've allowed 26, -5 run differential. But James Paxton on the mound here on the road against the Twins here. Scott, what do you think?
yeah, I love the Dodgers in the spot for the price. I don't understand why the line is relatively cheap. Paxton was good in his first outing, only 5 innings, did walk 5 guys, but did not give up any runs. So there's that. But Ober was really bad because he only went 1 1/3 innings and he gave up 9 hits. So yeah, not exactly sold on Ober. When your whip is 7.5, I'm probably not going to be sold on you for this game. And that was against Kansas City. But it's also a weird spot for Ober because he was supposed to pitch on Sunday and the game
Yeah,
got rained out. So now he suddenly has to switch opponents. I was sure he was spending the last day or two going through scouting reports, right? For one opponent. Now he's
you
got
would
to
think
switch up.
so.
I'd assume so. So now he's got to throw that in the garbage because against a different team. So it's kind of a weird spot for Ober to be in. I have to go with the Dodgers here, 145. Once again, Ober's whip in one start is 7.5. I'll take
Yeah.
the Dodgers in the spot.
I mean, like you mentioned, 1 1/3 for Ober. He allowed 8 earned runs against the Royals, and now you get the Dodgers, who, I mean, we'll see what happens with them with this rain delay. They may get into Minnesota late, but I don't think it really matters with this offense. I would look at a Dodgers team total over in this game. I think they could come out here and just absolutely dominate Bailey Ober. James Paxton, I think, was really fortunate in that game against the Giants because, like you mentioned, he did have those 5 walks, and the Giants had guys on base, but they just weren't able to get those guys across in those games. I would be curious to see what their batting average is with runners in scoring position. But I think Paxton was very, very fortunate in that game against the Giants that they just weren't able to get guys across. No, but the walks that he did give up. But nonetheless, I think my favorite play is going to be the Dodgers run line in this game. You still get that plus money if you want to take a look at their team total over. I'm guessing it's going to be 4.5 in this game. But again, I think their offense has a lot of success in this game going up against Bailey Ober and the Twins. Next game on the schedule, we got the Philadelphia Phillies. They are headed to St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. Spencer Turnbull gets a start here for the Philadelphia Phillies, and Miles Mikolas gets a start here for the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals are a minus 125 home favorite, plus 105 on the money line for the Phillies. Total is set at 9 with juice towards the under at minus 120. Run line minus 1.5 plus 154 for the Cardinals, and plus 1.5 minus 185 for the Philadelphia Phillies here. Scott, what do you think about this game?
It's tough to trust the Cardinals at this point, just based on what I've seen from them this season. Feels like the offense has been kind of stuck in quicksand, with the exception of, I mean, Goldschmidt got off to a good start. I mean, both teams have really kind of been underwhelming, but my thoughts on Mikolas. I think Mikolas is an atrocious pitcher. I think most people would agree. Turnbull is very good his first outing with the Phillies, so I'm going to have to lean that way. Plus money fading Mikolas. Are you serious? Yeah, I'll take the Phillies in this one. Why is Mikolas favored in any game?
I mean, that's a fantastic question. He did get off to a rough start against the Dodgers. He did have a better start against the Padres where they did win that game, but he still allowed 7 hits in that game, just over 6 innings, 2 earned runs in that game, 4 strikeouts to 1 walk here. But I'm not a Mikolas guy. I think I've said this multiple times over the last couple of pods that it's kind of telling where he was the opening day starter for the St. Louis Cardinals team. But I think the Phillies offense can definitely get to him here. A lean towards the over in this game. If you're able to find an 8.5, I do see it opened at 9 right now, currently over on DraftKings. But on the other side, Spencer Turnbull had a really good outing against the Cincinnati Reds. 5 shutout innings. He only allowed 1 run. It wasn't even earned at that point. Did have 7 strikeouts. So yeah, love the Phillies in the spot. Continue fading Miles Mikolas here, plus 105. Maybe if you want to flip it and get a minus 1.5 on the Phillies and get you some nice plus odds, I think that would be a really good look in this game for the Philadelphia Phillies here as well. 8:05 Eastern start, the last game between at least for this series, between the Astros and the Texas Rangers. Rangers just blitzing the Astros this weekend in their weekend series, but they wrap it up here on Monday. Framber Valdez on the mound here for the Houston Astros, and Andrew Heaney on the mound here for the Texas Rangers. Astros a minus 142 road favorite here, plus 120 on the money line for the Texas Rangers. Total is set at 10 with juice towards the under at minus 115. Run line minus 1.5 plus 120 for the Houston Astros, and plus 1.5 minus 142 for the Texas Rangers here. Scott, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the Rangers have been solid offensively so far this season. So at first glance, I got to be tempted by Texas looking sharp once again offensively, because it's been the story for I'd say for every game, arguably, that they've had so far this season. Houston's been a mess. You've talked about it before. They got swept by the Yankees at home. They're 0-2 on the road. They've been really, really bad. The only team they've beaten is Toronto. So I think I have to lean to Texas getting plus money. I know that Valdez is better than Heaney, but I really just can't trust Houston right now. They've been mispriced all season long. Until I see them chain together some wins, I'm not going to trust them. But I think you'd agree, based on current form, they are definitely mispriced. So I'll lean to Texas.
Yeah, it's hard to argue or even hard to bet on the Astros right now. I think if you want to back the Astros, it's probably look at their team total. Yeah, team total. Good. Andrew Heaney, left-handed pitcher. The Astros have had a lot of success against left-handed pitching. 8 appearances for Framber Valdez against this Rangers team since 2022. In those games, 4-3 with a 2.45 ERA. It's really been one start where he had a really bad outing, which was back on July 26th of last year. 3 2/3 at home. He allowed 6 earned runs to the Rangers in that game. Did bounce back nicely in his last start against the Toronto Blue Jays. Once again, the bullpen gave it up. They had a 1-0 lead, and the bullpen just messed it up again. But he went 7 2/3 of shutout baseball, 6 hits he allowed to the Blue Jays, 5 strikeouts in that game. So I think Valdez can go along well here. So I don't want to back the Astros. Again, this bullpen would make me nervous. You want to back the Astros. First 5 is your look right now. But I do like a team total, whether it's the first 5 innings for the Astros or a full game for the Astros. Because I do think they can get your Andrew Heaney here in the first 5 innings. And maybe, who knows, they could get 5 runs by the time it's the end of the 5th inning and get to that full game team total over. So until I see improvements from this bullpen and Joe Spot is able to figure it out for this Astros team, I just can't back them right now, especially again when they only have 2 wins on the season. So Astros team total over for me in the first 5 or full game, whichever way you want to go about that. Next game on the schedule, we've got the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are headed to Colorado to take on the Rockies. I'm currently seeing Zach Gallen getting the start here for the Arizona Diamondbacks and Kyle Freeland on the mound here for the Colorado Rockies. Rockies are a plus 150 home underdog, minus 180 for the Arizona Diamondbacks and Zach Gallen. Total is set at 10.5 with juice towards the over at minus 118. Run line minus 1.5, minus 118 for the Diamondbacks and plus 1.5, minus 102 for the Colorado Rockies here, Scott.
Yeah, I feel like pretty much every Arizona and Colorado game just finds a way to go over the number. I'm not sure which team's going to be doing the heavy lifting, maybe both, but I got to consider the over in Coors. Also want to take Arizona just because even though this team is 4-6, they're still clearly better than Colorado. Gallen, we know, has been great this season, but now he's in Coors, so we'll see what happens there. Freeland's been an absolute mess. So, yeah, I just think Freeland's going to get killed again. We saw him already pitch against Arizona this season. Did not go too well. So I like Arizona early. I like Arizona often. Team total over. I know Christian Walker kills a lefty, so maybe he might hit a home run in this game. But I'll keep fading Freeland because, damn, he's not very good at this point in his career. I'll take Arizona.
5 2/3 innings pitched. He's allowed 17 earned runs in that span. 19 hits, 3 have been home runs, 4 walks. He did face this Diamondbacks team in Arizona's first start. He allowed 10 earned runs and 2 1/3 innings pitched. So I'm all over. Yeah, Diamondbacks team totals here, whether it's first 5, whether it's full game. Zach Gallen hasn't actually pitched in the Coors Field since the 2022 season, but he's had 6 appearances in his career at Coors Field, 2-0 in those situations with a 2.43 ERA. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any of those 6 appearances against the Rockies in Coors Field. So, last season, Gallen was a pitcher that was absolutely phenomenal at home. He did get into trouble a little bit on the road last year, but he's had, like you mentioned, 2 starts here this season where he's been absolutely fantastic, and he did face his Rockies team in that first game. 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run in that span. So, yeah, it's Diamondbacks for me in this game. If you want to take the run line, or like Scott mentioned, team totals in this game for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Anything else for this game, Scott?
No, once again, I'll keep fading Freeland until he either gets released or he gets demoted. So I'll keep fading him.
All right. Before we get over to the final 3 games on the schedule here for the Monday night card, let me tell everyone about the newest sponsor on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. That is going to be AVO. We're proud to partner up with AVO, the premier sports betting arbitrage tool. If you're new to arbitrage betting, it's very simple. Basically, betting both sides of a bet at 2 different sportsbooks to lock in a profit. The AVO tool scans the sportsbooks looking for discrepancies in the odds and tells you how much money you need to place with each sportsbook and the expected profit. This tool is super easy to use and lightning fast, as speed is a big part of arbitrage betting in sports. The best part is AVO is currently free to use without restrictions. That's right, completely free. Get started today at arbsvsodds.com. That's arbsversusodds.com. That's arbsversusodds.com. All right, Scott, let's get into the final 3 games of the Monday card here. We'll go over to the game between, let's see here. We've got, go out to my odd screen here. The Tampa Bay Rays, they are in Anaheim to take on the Angels. Zach Eflin getting the start here for the Rays. Tyler Anderson for the Angels. Angels are a home underdog in this game, plus 120. Rays favored minus 142. Total is set at 8.5. Run line minus 1.5 plus 114 for the Rays, and plus 1.5 minus 135 here for the LA Angels. Here, Scott, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Anderson's a guy who I'm not the biggest fan of, but he was good in his first outing, 7 innings and no runs. Eflin was very good last year, and then he just always loses to Texas. Just simply put, he just can't beat the Rangers.
Yeah.
But I do think Eflin is the better pitcher here. I think Tampa is the better team. The Angels are a fascinating bunch because batting average wise, they're not very good at all. They're batting 211, but their on base percentage is 302. So they do walk a lot. So I do think they can work some counts, and we'll see what happens. But I am going to lean to the Rays here. I just think they're the better team. I think Eflin's the better pitcher, despite what the early season numbers suggest. So I'm going to lean Tampa. Props to the Angels, though, for looking competent so far. I know they're getting killed by Boston right now,
Yeah.
but I am going to lean to the Rays. I think they're the better team.
I think the one concern I have about Eflin, and I mean, maybe it was that the offense just didn't show up for him last season on the road. I mean, he was really dominant at Tropicana Field, right? 11-4 with a 3.30 ERA. Wasn't too bad on the road last year, 5-4 with 3.77 ERA. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe it's just early on, but how teams kind of adjust coming out of Coors Field and altitude in that first game. Maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe I'm just kind of reaching here, but I think that I'm not a Tyler Anderson guy like you mentioned as well, but he did have a good start. Again, it was the Marlins, and Anderson's a left-handed pitcher, right? And again, the Marlins do struggle against left-handed pitching, so maybe it was just the fact that he did look really good against a team that was struggling against left-handed pitching, not only this season but last season as well. So, say all that, I'll be on the Rays here as well, minus 142 on the money line. If you want to take a look at it, Rays team total over. They were one of the teams last year that were really good against left-handed pitching, right? We talk about teams like the Braves, the Astros. The Rays were really good against left-handed pitching there as well. So maybe a little bit of regression here in the second start here for Tyler Anderson going up against the Rays in this game. Next game on the schedule, 9:40 Eastern start, the Chicago Cubs. They will be traveling to San Diego to take on the Padres. Currently, as it stands, Javier Assad is getting started here for the Chicago Cubs, and Yu Darvish on the mound here for the San Diego Padres. Padres a minus 142 home favorite, plus 120 on the money line for the Cubs. Total is set at 7.5. Run line minus 1.5 plus 150 for the Padres, and plus 1.5 minus 180 for the Cubbies. Like we talked about, Cubs currently in the rain delay against the Dodgers. They'll have to then finish this game, travel to the West Coast against the Padres, where Yu Darvish on the mound here. Scott, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to lean to the Padres because of the reason you just said. I don't know when they're going to finish this game. And it's the worst part because they have not gone 5 innings yet. So they can't even call the game early and just give the Cubs the win. They're going to have to wait around and potentially finish the game later tonight. Then there's going to be some travel involved. So I got to lean to San Diego. Do I think the Padres are good? No, not really. Darvish has been decent so far this season, but I have to at least acknowledge it's a bad scheduling spot for the Cubs if this game does not resume anytime soon, because either A, it's going to resume soon, they still have to finish about 5-6 innings, or B, they're going to wait it out and then maybe finish it later. Yeah, have fun traveling to California after that. Not exactly a fun combo there. I'm going to lean to San Diego, which is a bad spot for the Cubs.
Yeah, Darvish has actually also been really good in his career against the Cubs since he joined the Padres. 3 starts, he's 2-1 with a 1.23 ERA, at least 7 strikeouts in all 3 of those starts, and he's a pitcher that you want to back at home. Didn't have the greatest of starts. I mean, the start against the Cardinals wasn't too bad. He did go 7 innings. He just didn't get any support from his offense, where they did lose that game 5-2. But anytime I do want to back Darvish, it's going to be at home at Petco Park here. And again, like we just talked about with the scheduling spot right now for the Cubs, where they're in that rain delay, it's going to be, maybe they get in really late to San Diego, especially having to travel, finishing this game trip across the country to the West Coast. So I think a spot here for the Padres. I'll take Yu Darvish on the money line here with the Padres. Last game on the schedule, Scott, 9:45 Eastern start. The Washington Nationals, they are in the Bay Area to take on the Giants. Trevor Williams gets to start here for the Nationals, and Blake Snell on the mound here for the Giants. Giants, an overwhelming minus 238 favorite, plus 195 on the money line for the Washington Nationals. Total is set at 8. Run line minus 1.5, minus 115 for the Giants, and plus 1.5, minus 105 for the Washington Nationals here, Scott.
Yeah, the Nationals are a team that I don't think is particularly good, but apparently they helped revive Joey Gallo's career because he's actually been decent so far this season, which is a shock to us all. The Nationals had a nice win on Sunday as they were able to beat the Phillies. For this matchup, it's kind of tricky because I don't think the Giants are that good either. But if I had to look at the pitching matchup, obviously Snell's better than Williams. So I would probably consider Giants run line, but maybe the under in this game. I'm not a big Trevor Williams guy. He was okay his first outing, but it's mostly just expecting Snell to look pretty good and expecting a lower scoring game in probably the most pitcher friendly or the second most pitcher friendly ballpark in the league. So I'll link to the under in this one. I see a pretty low scoring game in general. Give me a Giants 4-2 win.
Yeah, I believe this is the first start for Snell this season, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how he looks coming out of the gate here for the Giants. But
I think because he signed late. I think since they signed him late, they gave him one go through the rotation.
Yeah. Williams had a pretty decent start against the Pirates in his first start back on Wednesday. 5 1/3, 3 hits, 2 earned runs. He did have 2 walks and 5 strikeouts in that game. But yeah, I want to see what I can get out of Snell here. I would lean here with the Giants here as well. Under is probably the play in this game for me. Under 8 is a number right now currently over at DraftKings. I think Snell can go along well here. I think Williams can have some success here as well, like you mentioned, in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark in San Francisco there. So under 8 for me as an official play in this game. All right, that was the last game on the schedule here for the Monday card here, Scott. Let's get out our lock in dog for the Monday games here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, for the record, I'm still a bit pissed off last episode that I lost my dog because the Red Sox won 1-0, and I had Pavetta minus 1.5. Just to get it out there, that was the only loss I had on that episode. But for the sake of this one, for the lock on the show, I got to figure out what I want to do. There's actually a decent amount that I liked on the card. I mean, the Dodgers I obviously like. The question is, do I want the run line instead? Because that is so cheap, I could probably find a good deal on the run line. Question, are you going to be like Terrell and get mad at me for taking something below plus 140?
Not in baseball.
Not in baseball? Okay, cool. No. So the Dodgers run line will be my dog because plus 115 fading Ober is a hell of a deal. For my lock, though, what do I want? You know what? I'll back it because you mentioned Gallon's numbers and cores and how good they are. Give me the Diamondbacks run line. I'll keep fading Freeland. I think he's awful, and the numbers back that up. Give me the Diamondbacks to win this game comfortably. You said Gallon, historically speaking, it's a bit dated, but he has still been very solid in cores in his career, and he's a good pitcher in general. So, yeah, give me the Diamondbacks run line at minus 115 as my lock. Give me the Dodgers run line at plus 115 as my dog.
All right, there we go. All right, for my lock, I think I am gonna go with the Braves run line. Yeah, let's do that. Atlanta Braves run line minus 1.5 with Charlie Morton going up against Julio Teheran. Mentioned the numbers last year for Teheran against this Braves team in a one start. Was absolutely blasted in Atlanta. And just don't trust this offense right now, frankly, put for this New York Mets team. I mean, we'll be surprised if the Braves went out there and scored 7, 8 on their own, and that the Mets offense just hasn't been able to put up a whole lot of runs this season thus far. And I think that's just going to be a theme for this team continuing the season as we've seen over the past several years. So I will take the Braves minus 1.5, minus 115 as my lock. For my dog, that's a baby dog. I can't do that. I was gonna give the Phillies. That's only plus 105.
Do the run line if you want it.
Yeah, do you see a minus 1.5 price on that? I don't see one at DraftKings. They have it at plus 1.5 at minus 185.
Well, the point is, even if you don't have a price, it's going to be somewhere
Yeah.
it's going to reach the criteria.
Let me check FanDuel. Maybe they have it.
It's still early, so I don't know if they give alt lines yet, but
Yeah, so
I got to imagine it's going to be like plus 150, plus 160 if I had to guess.
the Phillies FanDuel has it at plus 164
Okay.
for the Phillies run line. So I will go with that as my dog here. Philadelphia Phillies plus 164 on the run line, minus 1.5. Just fading Mikolas here. Not a fan of him at all. I think this offense would definitely be able to get to him. So give me the Phillies minus 1.5 plus 164 as my dog for this Monday card. Again, just to recap, Atlanta Braves minus 1.5, minus 108 on FanDuel, get even a cheaper price than DraftKings. Again, definitely shop around for the best numbers. And then Phillies run line minus 1.5 plus 164 as my dog. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast. Looking for 50 some odd more subscribers to the MLB Gambling Podcast YouTube channel for us to get to 1,000 on the channel there. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at MLB SGPN. You can also follow us on Instagram at MLB underscore podcast as well. Make sure to follow Scott on Twitter. That's at Reichel Radio. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, a couple crazy games going on in the NBA right now, so I've been kind of distracted, but looking forward to the baseball games tomorrow.
Yep. 100%. We'll be back tomorrow for the Tuesday cards. Look out for us then. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.